Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Chamblin, and today I would like to talk to you about the most amazing book that you will be reading for this course, and it is Learning That Sticks. So the best way to present the information processing model to you is not via a lecture, but really through reading this book. And so it goes through the information processing model, which is a brain-based theory, which explains how the brain works and how we can apply some of that to teaching and learning. So today, I just want to spend a few minutes with you highlighting what the book is about and what you will be reading and how you will follow along, how I can support you, and how you can use this great, wonderful resource to help you in teaching and learning, and including strategies in your lesson, how to build it better, build your lessons better, build your curriculum better by keeping in mind how students learn based on this theory. Okay, I'm just going to check that you are seeing what I see. So just give me a second so I can see. Okay, good. Okay, so beginning at the preface of the book, it sets up a question, and it says, could you draw a model of the human learning system, how information enters our brains and gets converted into long-term memories we can retrieve later. So as a teacher, can you draw a model of when you teach and that information is put out there and you have a receiver, which is typically the student? What's the process? What happens? Where does the information go? What does it look like? How does our brains breathe information to store and retrieve later for use? So if you can do that, you're good. You got it. But if you cannot, and you're thinking, I don't know if I even know what that process looks like, this is the book for you. So this book, and I'm reading from the preface, it says, this book's aim, right, is to provide research-based teaching strategies and others so you can deliver better learning for students. Instead of just spoon-feeding them to you, this book will unpack, so not spoon-feeding you the strategies. I need to put that in context because I'm reading this particular paragraph out of context. So instead of just spoon-feeding the strategies to you, this book will unpack the cognitive science underlining these strategies so you can sequence them into learning experiences that challenge, inspire, and engage your students. As a result, you'll learn to teach with more intentionality, understanding not just what to do, but also when and why to do it. You'll also know what to do when things go wrong or your students struggle to master new learning. Isn't that great? That's a really great and wonderful aspiration. I want to read the book. You should want to read the book. So this is what we want as all teachers, what we want. We want to be able to challenge students, inspire students. We want to make sure that they are learning, they're getting the information. So in chapter 1, some guiding questions, what you should be thinking about as you're reading. What is the information processing model and its components? Okay, according to this theory, the information processing theory, do I know what happens at each stage prior to information going into long-term memory? So if we say long-term memory application is at the end, And in the beginning, it's you teaching, doing something. What's happening in between? So what's the first part of this model? So things are put out there and they go onto the sensory register. I'll just give you that little bit of a teaser so that you'll want to read more. And students have to focus and attend to information. And so then that information then goes into short-term memory, then to working memory. There's a magic number of information that a person can use when they are for memory, that goes into memory. And so we chunk information in a certain way because we could only use a certain amount of information. So you will learn why phone numbers are 7 digits and why the magic number is 4 to 7. What is that about? What is 4 to 7? So read to find out more. Why is forgetting important? So forgetting is an important piece that you will learn about and why it is so very important for us to understand. So if we want to help students remember, we have to understand the process of forgetting. As a teacher, why is it important for me to understand short-term memory and working memory? How can I apply this to help students in my plan of instruction? So in chapter 1, it sort of opens up and gives you the model. And then later on in the following chapters, it actually gives you the details and the reasons. And it also gives you application and it lays out specific strategies that would answer this question. So you're thinking about it as you're reading this chapter, and you will learn more as we move forward. Let me just make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, great. So I must see. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back. Okay, so a must see. Let's see. Okay. While you're reading, figure 1.1 gives you a model, a visual of this model. And 1.2 gives you a very specific and very intricate and detailed visual and chart of how the book is laid out. And it gives you each area, and then it gives you the strategies that correlate with those areas. So it's a must-see, okay? Figure 1 and figure 1.2, very important to take a look at. So in chapter 2, the overall question, the essential question, how can we get students interested? How do we do that? It's the first part of any lesson, right? And it's more than just saying my motivation will be a video. Okay, but why would you even do a video? Well, what is it that's supposed to happen? So before you could say what you would do, what do we need to know, right? How do we get them interested? What do we do? Chapter 3, how do I turn boredom into commitment? How do I get students to self-regulate and make commitments? Chapter 4, focus on new learning. When students take in new learning, how do we get it to stick? In chapter 5, you are going to ask yourself and reflect on the strategies. What are strategies to assist students in comprehending information? And in chapter 6, practice and reflection. How can I, as the teacher, use the information processing model to understand the importance of practice and rehearsal and building supports for student reflective practice? So rehearsal, you know that word in a colloquial way, but in this body of research, what do we know about rehearsal? There's a lot that we also know about rehearsal in students with disabilities who this part does not happen. And it's important that we know it doesn't happen because we have to build it in. We have to build it in our practice so that they do that. So very important information. Understanding the importance of rehearsal in students with learning disabilities is a complete body of work that would take hours to talk about. In this book, they give you the highlights and explain rehearsal within the confines of the model. And in chapter 7, how can we challenge students to go deeper and extend their learning? In chapter 8, we use the model to reflect. Use the model, you as a teacher. So chapter 8 is directed at you as a practitioner. And how can we use the model to reflect on our teaching? We could use this model to diagnose student learning. Where do they seem to be having some difficulties? We can support collegiality and how we speak to colleagues about what's happening with the student, and how we can use this as a frame to understand when we are teaching, these are some of the things that we need to do because of this model. Not I'm telling you that you need to have this part in your lesson because I think it's great, but because of the way students learn, because of this model, these are the pieces that we need to have in our lesson, or these are the strategies that we need to learn, and these are strategies we need to employ in lessons so that students can have the outcome of getting that information to stick, right? There's also a review of frequently asked questions at the end that you can kind of look through. So for the midterm is based on this book. And my suggestion is that you read through the book. There is no expectation that reading this book one time will be enough for you to understand all of its components. You need to have the book, you need to buy the book, you need to hold on to the book, because it will be a book that you will go back to reference information. So if you are new to teaching and you are an undergraduate or a graduate student taking this course, this book is extremely helpful because you will go back to it for future practice, to look at what you're doing, and it will inform you for strategy and for reflection on thinking about how you're presenting your lessons. So, and you will learn a whole new way of looking at planning instruction, and it gives you the reasons why. Why is it so important to activate prior knowledge? You were taught to do that in your methods courses, but really, why is that so important? And what else is important besides just activating prior knowledge? What else can I do? So it's important for that. If you are a seasoned teacher and you are taking this course for professional development, you can also use this and really think about the students that are having difficulty in your courses, and kind of look at, well, can I use this theory and this planning and these strategies to make sure that I'm capturing all students? One of the things that's really important, as I said about rehearsal, when we look at specifically students with disabilities, students with learning disabilities, students with mild cognitive disabilities, students with emotional behavioral disorders, so students with disabilities that are in our classrooms. There are pieces of this model that are more important for those students than typical learners, because there are certain atypicalities in the way that they function, where there are pieces of this model where they need direct instruction on. So we might teach a lesson and assume students are doing certain things. But from our research, we know, as I just mentioned, rehearsal, what's happening as students are seeing something and thinking about it. We have tons of research that show that might not be happening for certain students, because it's something that they need to be directly taught, modeled. They need a strategy. in several studies on mnemonics for students who were typical that used mnemonics to help them with memory. Atypical students improved a little, and it was good. But for the students with learning disabilities, the improvement was significantly better because they needed that strategy to help them with their short-term memory. So you're going to encounter a lot of students who have short memory and working memory deficits. So while you're teaching them, you have to know what that looks like, because you might think I'm teaching them things and then the next day, oh, they know nothing. They didn't learn anything. They didn't. And it's not because of their fault. So you might say, well, it's because they weren't paying attention, or they weren't doing this, they weren't doing that. So now you have a model to think about, okay, was it attention? And what part of the lesson should have addressed that? What's happening in short-term memory when I'm presenting it? What's the breakdown? Where is it not happening? What strategy did I not do, or did I leave out, or what can I try so that it gets to the short-term memory and stays long enough that it can carry over, where the student can go back and refer to it. And even if I need to use some type of support, a visual support, an aid, a mnemonic, so that they know what to do, so they know how to think about it. So it ignites metacognitive skills so that they know what they should be doing through a task. A lot of research in that area. So the first level of this is understanding the information processing model. And so this book does a very good job of explaining that. I think spending time with the book and the intimacy of reading about it in this very thorough explanation is the best way for you to experience this. So please read through the book. Oh, and my original point was that I don't expect you to read the book, memorize it, know everything for the midterm exam. So what the midterm exam will look like, it will be probably 35 to 70 questions. It'll be worth 35 points based on the book. So if you read through the book and then you open up the exam with the book next to you, it's an open book exam. You open book, open notes. So while you're reading, please do take notes. You will be able to use the book as reference to answer the questions. So the questions are there to, it's really a conversation, the questions and you about what you have read. And it's also, it's an assessment, but it's also will help you to reflect and think about the reading. So I am so excited that you'll be reading this, and this is an overview of this book, which of course I highly recommend. That's why I selected it for this course and why it is the only required reading, because I know that it will take you some time to get through it. So enjoy, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me. Enjoy your day. I am going to stop share, and we're done. Take care, everyone.